My sister's husband lost his mind when I revealed that I was in a romantic relationship with someone else. This is just a vent post, but any advice would be appreciated. Context: I'm Ashley 17F. My sister, who we'll call Jess, 25F, has been married for 2 years to her husband, Jake, 34M. They got together when she was just starting college, and have been together since. As far as I know, they've never had any problems, and anytime they came around to visit they literally seemed like the model relationship. My parents never really made any of the right choices in life, and because of this my sister basically raised me herself. I'm so grateful to her for this, and I know that she had to make so many sacrifices to be able to do so. When she was in college, I'd make sure to call her at least like 3 times a week just to get updates and see how she was doing. In these conversations she'd talk about schoolwork, what she was planning to do, and then she'd talk about Jake. She described him so wonderfully that it literally upped my own standards of love. For example, all the flowers she got, all the beautiful dates she went on, and how he treated her so amazingly. After living with my parents who should have gotten divorced a long time ago, I wasn't someone who had a guide of what a healthy relationship should look like, so I became quite close with Jess and Jake. It had always been me and my sister growing up, so when she introduced me to Jake it felt like I finally had an older brother. Eventually, Jess and Jake moved in together, got engaged, and now they're married. My parents ended up kicking me out because I refused to pay them rent. I have a job at a luxury horse ranch, and there's a few perks. They'll let you use their horses to practice. They'll offer free lessons with a riding instructor. And all around I just love my job too much. I didn't want to leave it. Due to these perks, though, my pay isn't that good. And for how much my parents were asking for, I'd have to get a second job, or quit to find one that pays enough. So I found myself living with Jess and Jake. Jake works from home, so unless he's taking Jess out, or at the gym, he's at home. He makes enough money doing whatever it is he does. I have no idea what he actually does, but Jess told me that it was his family's company. So that explains it, I guess. Recently, they came to me and told me that they were expecting, and obviously, I was very excited for them. But my sister has had a few miscarriages in the past, and we needed to be extra careful with her. This has turned out to be a very complicated pregnancy for my sister, even in these early stages, so it's very high risk. Hopefully, this is enough for you to get a clear idea of what's going on. My parents had an old car that I was allowed to drive to work and school, but after they kicked me out I could no longer use it. This was a bummer as I always liked the sense of freedom that having a car gave me, but whatever, I'll get over it. Jake insisted that he would start taking me to school in the morning, and then driving me to and from work. I was extremely grateful for this because I didn't have to take the bus or walk. So after Jake finished his daily routine at the gym, he would head home, shower, get me Starbucks, and drop me off at school. And then in the afternoon he would pick me up from school, and then drive me to work. At the end of my shift, he was usually waiting outside or on the way, so it was really a great help, and I was so thankful that he would take so much time out of his day to help me. In the car, we'd end up talking and having conversations, whether it was about Jess or the plans for the baby, but he'd always ask me if I was dating someone, or had a crush on them. He'd wink and be like, "You're so beautiful, it's not possible. There's got to be something you're hiding from me. Come on, you can tell me. You know I can keep a secret. Just tell me." I mean, there was a guy, I'll give him that, but it was too early to talk about. Which meant I ended up being vague because I didn't want to lie to him. Basically just playing coy, and not answering any of his questions with too specific of an answer because I just didn't feel like jinxing myself. Eventually, Alex, 19M, the guy that I was talking to, asked me on a date. His family owned the ranch that I worked at, and so we ended up spending a lot of time together while I was working. Usually, during my shifts he would come and help me out, or we'd go riding together. I was really excited, and on the way home after my shift, I ended up telling Jake. He immediately went cold? I don't know how else to explain it, but there was no longer a familial warmth. He started asking a lot of questions, very matter-of-factly, and I answered because I figured it was just the protective older sibling thing, and that it might take some time for him to get used to it. But then when I told him that we'd been talking for a month or so he freaked out, and got really angry. I ended up crying when he started calling me a liar and saying that I've been trying to hide this from him. The one thing that stayed on my mind since is that he literally said, "What about us?" Which has left me so confused, because what does he even mean? The worst part is that now, because of how he acted, I'm overthinking a lot of what has happened since I came to live with them. There's a pool in the backyard of Jake's house, and sometimes I'll go out there to swim or just to lie out there and tan. However, I've now come to realize that any time I went out for a swim, or tried to sunbathe, that Jake would make an excuse to come and do something outside, whether he'd start up the grill, or mow the lawn. I'd get that feeling that I was being watched, but a few times, he just started swimming with me, but I figured he was just trying to work out like me. After I get out of the pool, I go to take a shower in the hallway. Jake and Jess have their own connected to the master. After I'm done with my shower, I would go to my room, and then get changed and sleep. Sometimes though, in that short distance between hallway and room, in which I'm wearing nothing but a towel, Jake would be waiting for me, and then he'd say goodnight, which I would say back to him. But now I'm wondering if there was another reason for that. I don't want to bring these concerns up to my sister because of how fragile she's been recently. This pregnancy is really hitting her hard, and I just don't want to say anything because it could end up hurting her or the baby, and I just need an answer as to whether or not I'm overthinking. More info. I really didn't even consider the fact that my sister could take his side over mine, but after everything I've read in the comments, it makes me think I should start collecting that evidence. Also, I will definitely try my best to switch the dynamic between him and me without raising red flags. I'm more than willing to tell my sister if I feel like there's any immediate danger, but as I said before, I don't think he's that type of person. I'd rather wait until she's healthier to try and relay this news, just to be on the safe side considering my sister could seriously get hurt from not just the emotional damage, but the risk in her pregnancy. I'd like to give him the benefit of the doubt, but it was really scary seeing the way he flew off the handle like that. I really do feel like he's probably just been under way too much stress as my sister's pregnancy is truly high risk, and he's had to take care of her much more than usual. He's probably just worried that something is going to happen to her. However, even if I do give him the benefit of the doubt, I should establish some boundaries. When he had that blow up, it really unnerved me, and I didn't feel safe. I know I'd never be able to overpower him. So I'm going to ask a few of my friends if they'd be willing to carpool me, and I'll reach out to Alex to see if he can give me a ride to and from work. Worst comes to worst, I'll just find a job that I can walk to. In the meantime, I'll definitely try and emphasize the brotherly relationship that I feel with him. I'm going to try and stay pleasant because I really don't feel the need to be hostile and create an aggressive environment. Other than that, I'll be taking some steps to see if I can change my situation. Update: is my sister's husband acting weird or am I overthinking? I'd just like to say thank you, first of all, to everyone who left a comment on my last post offering advice in any sort of way. Last night, after reading all the comments, I realized that I'm no longer safe in this situation, and will be making changes from this day forward. As much as I respect and love Jake, I don't think the risk is worth it. I did try and initiate a conversation with him, after I posted and got some advice, just to see if there's a chance we might be able to talk about this, but he was still in a bad mood, so I just went to my room. In the middle of the night, I felt like I really needed to get out of the house though. I really just started feeling so trapped, and I decided that I would take a walk to my smoke spot and then try to clear my head. I'm not even there 15 minutes before I get a text asking, "Where are you?" From Jake. Then, my phone starts blowing up off the hook. He's calling and calling and calling. I don't think I can describe the fear going through me. I wanted nothing else in the world than to be left alone. Eventually, I picked up the phone, which led to a flurry of insults being thrown my way. Apparently, I'm a effing princess who always gets her way, and how I deserve to be treated like the slut I am. Then, he told me to send him my location, which absolutely was not effing happening. So I told him to take a breather and think about what he just said to me. I did end up calling Alex afterwards, who thankfully picked up, and explained everything to him. I'm really not sure how much he understood considering I was literally shaking and crying so violently, but he ended up driving over to my spot, and asking a few more questions about the entire situation while he tried to calm me down. I was able to relax, eventually, and told him everything again with a clearer head. Throughout all of this, my phone had been ringing off the hook, but assuming that it was Jake, I just let them keep going. Eventually, I can see that it's my sister's phone calling me, and despite knowing that there was a good chance that it was Jake on the other end, I still picked up. It was indeed Jake, who unleashed another flurry of insults at me, loud enough for Alex to hear, and take the phone from my hand. He told Jake to shut the fuck up, and that I'm safe, then hung up. Afterwards, he just told me that it was going to be okay, and not to worry about it. He ended up driving me all the way to the ranch, and told his parents about what happened, and my current situation. I'm really grateful that they decided to take me in, and let me stay in one of their extra rooms for a little more work around the farm. After that, I just kind of cuddled with Alex, and tried my best to fall asleep. I ended up not going to school today, because I'm just trying to take a breather. However, after Jake's reaction, and the comments getting to my head, I seriously began to worry for my sister, who I ended up calling. Gladly, she was the one who picked up, and it was obvious that she had been crying. She asked me if I was safe, and if I was okay. Jess told me that the night before, she had woken up to Jake's yelling, and it really startled her, so she pretended to still be asleep. She ended up hearing him come back into their room, and take her phone off of her charger. Afterwards, she heard the yelling again, and then the front door slamming. Apparently, Jake had gone to look for me, and had kept my sister's phone with him. She told me she had no idea what to do, but she was just scared that he was going to genuinely hurt me. After an hour or so, Jake had come back home, but he was clearly still in a bad mood, because when she asked where he was and what happened, he ended up blowing up on her too for questioning him. She said she'd never seen him this angry before, and he was literally wrecking furniture. After a few minutes of this, he had gotten back into the car and left, but thankfully left her phone on the counter. She looked at the call logs, and saw all the calls to me. While Jake was gone, she ended up calling a friend to pick her up, and then tried reaching out to me, which at that point I was sleeping, but she told me she was scared that he had found me. She told me she was really sorry for not being able to protect me herself, and failing to see that this was happening. Jess asked me why I didn't tell her about any of his behavior, but I told her that I didn't want to stress her out with the pregnancy, and then we both had a long cry. Apparently, My parents are allowing her to move back in rent-free, because they want to help raise their grandbaby. If this had been an option in the first place, none of this would have happened. But I digress. My sister and I ended up going out for dinner, where I showed her my post. We cried again. She told me that she'd never been scared of him before, but after seeing his anger the night before, she was shaken. Both of us still need to get our stuff, but we're going to reach out eventually, and set a date that we can move all our shit out. My dad and Alex will both be there, just in case he tries to pull anything. According to my sister, he has tried to reach out and apologize so many times, but he just claims that he was worried for my safety, and that I shouldn't be out at night. He had no idea that she could hear exactly what he was yelling at me, so she knew for a fact he was lying. Jess let him know that she'd be filing for divorce, and then hung up. I love my sister, and I wish her nothing but the best in life. I know she will recover from this, and find an amazing man that loves her and only her. In other news, Alex and I are going on a date next week, so I'm pretty happy about that. But genuinely, thank you to the Reddit commenters, for stressing me out so badly that I just needed to go on a smoke break. I think you may have saved me. I don't know what would have happened had I been in my room that night, but I'm grateful that I didn't have to find out.